Something just happened over the last 24 hours that brought the world closer to nuclear war, or at least that's what it would seem. An international leader has shocked the world by publicly calling on Russian President Vladimir Putin to blast Ukraine with tactical nuclear weapons. We're going to see precisely what was said, and more importantly, why it was said. And while it's all rather shocking, by the end of this video, you'll discover the most shocking thing of all. They're seen as some of the fiercest fighters on the planet, the elite fighters of Chechnya. They gained their ferocious reputation in the last few decades after two brutal wars against Russia in what many consider to be the most violent conflicts around Europe since the Second World War. But now, the fury of both these militaries, Chechen and Russian, have joined together in the special military operation launched by Vladimir Putin in Ukraine. And though they fight for Vladimir Putin, these Chechen soldiers are ultimately loyal to this man, Ramzan Kadyrov, the pro-Kremlin president of the Chechen Republic. It's Kadyrov that turned heads around the world this weekend when he took to his Telegram platform and wrote, quote, "I don't know what the Russian Federation Ministry of Defense reports to the Supreme Commander-in-Chief, but in my personal opinion, more drastic measures should be taken, up to the declaration of martial law in the border areas and the use of low-yield nuclear weapons." Now, obviously, it was that last phrase, the use of low-yield nuclear weapons, or as they're more commonly known as tactical nuclear weapons, that was the most alarming of them all. Tactical nuclear weapons are different from strategic nuclear weapons in that they're shorter range, they're not intercontinental, they're less destructive, and are strategically designed and employed to strike battlefield targets. Now, obviously, those qualifications duly noted, they are still nukes, and they are therefore still radically destructive, and their use in battle would be an international game changer, which goes without saying. While the U.S. got rid of all but just a couple hundred of our tactical nuclear weapons after the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia largely kept theirs. And so as of today, they have an unmatched stockpile of over 2,000 tactical nuclear weapons. Now, what makes Kadyrov's call especially ominous is that it was recommended in light of Vladimir Putin's recent warning that Russia would defend itself by all means necessary were Ukrainian or NATO forces to attack the newly annexed territories of Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson, which are, as of last Friday, officially, as far as the Kremlin is concerned, they are now as much a part of the Russian Federation as is Chechnya. So what are we to make of all of this? I mean, what's going on here with this call to blast Ukraine with tactical nukes against the backdrop of Putin's own nuclear threats? Well, at the very least, from our vantage point, we all know that we have to prepare for major volatility in our economy, and the best way to do that is to click on the link below and visit the sponsor of this video, and that's the amazing company called Replace Your University. Our dear friend Michael Lush is showing patriots by the thousands how you can build your own personal parallel economy so you're no longer dependent on woke businesses without worrying about your financial future and like. He's even going to show you how to pay off your mortgage in 5 to 7 years. I'm serious. It's absolutely amazing. Check them out. Click on that link below and book a free consultation call with Michael. He's one of us, and he's here to serve you. But from Russia's vantage point, there are three dynamics going on here. Three dynamics in what I'm calling temperamental dynamics, tactical dynamics, and tectonic dynamics. Temperamental, tactical, and tectonic. I think that largely explains what we're hearing with these nuclear threats. So let's start first and foremost with the temperamental. As you may know, Ukrainian troops launched a very impressive and very successful campaign to recapture Kharkiv and are currently in the process of doing the same in Limon. And it's clear, while the Kremlin doesn't seem very bothered by this, the Russian population is. They were very upset over the retreat by Russian troops from Kharkiv. Kadyrov has made his frustrations about the tempered and restrained nature of the SMO, the Special Military Operation, which has thus far been conducted with less than 20% of the total Russian military. He's made it very public, his frustration. And so I think in many respects, his nuclear call was an expression of that. Why don't we simply unleash the full power and might of the Russian military and get this whole thing over with? That's what a lot of Russians are asking today. And that's exactly how Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, that's how he characterized Kadyrov's words. He characterized them as emotional and not reflective of Kremlin policy. So this is what I mean by the temperamental dynamic at play here. Kadyrov is simply saying out loud what a lot of Russians are saying. Why can't we simply unleash the full force of our military and end this thing once and for all? Well, the simple answer to that is that given the strictures, the legal strictures and limitations of an SMO, China and India would not permit Russia to unleash the beast, as it were, as if there were in an all-out war against Ukraine. You see, Ukraine, of course, can be in an all-out war with Russia, but it doesn't work the other way around. Russia has to be far more careful and reserved in their own battle plans. But that leads us to the second dynamic, which is tactical. I think Putin's threats against Ukraine, that they were prepared to use all means necessary, were aimed at preparing nations like China and India for an all-out assault, one that I still think would fall short of the use of tactical nuclear weapons because I don't think they even remotely need to rely on such. The Russian army is powerful enough. But Russia is planning on unleashing the beast if and when Ukraine attacks a recognized border of the newly annexed regions. When that happens, all bets are off. The SMO, the special military operation, ends and a full-blown war with Ukraine begins, and that is when you're going to see tanks, Russian tanks, in Kiev. So the blustering threats are there to prepare the two nations that need to be on board for this to work. It's to prepare them for an all-out war that I believe will forego the use of those tactical weapons, with the threat itself serving as the precursor of the decisive counterattack against Ukraine that would follow any excursion into the newly annexed territories. And finally, there's a tectonic dynamic. Kadyrov alluded to it at the end of his Telegram message. He in effect said, we don't need to consult with the West anymore. We do things our own way, and the West is powerless, totally powerless to stop it. You see, all of these threats are in effect breaks from international norms, norms that up until now have been established and perpetuated by Western liberal globalist institutions like the WEF in Davos and the EU in Brussels and the dolts in DC. A new force has been rising, a Eurasian force that sees itself as representative of the growing backlash against those international norms. And now we're starting to see that force stare down Western liberal globalist powers. Our Western elite have done everything they possibly can to stop Russia, but to no avail. China, India, the Middle East, they're all behind Russia, as together they're forging a new post-globalist, post-secular world. All of this talk, all these nuclear threats are in effect deliberate breaks from, they're offenses against the Western liberal globalist order. That, in many ways, is their real significance. So as shocking as these threats might be, the fact that they point indelibly to the rise of an entirely new world order is, as it turns out, perhaps the most shocking development of them all. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You will definitely want to check out my latest video on Jordan Peterson's stunning Lex Fridman on his views about Vladimir Putin. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on that link, and I will see you over there. God bless.